Max Verstappen has signed a new Red Bull deal to the end of 2030. 4 more years of full send, as the branding has it, and when there's branding for a contract announcement in F1, you know it's a big deal. There are a lot of moving parts here, including the questions of what happened with the McLaren talks, how committed Verstappen really is, and whether he, of course, will still be there by the end of 2030. John Noble, we've just been in a press conference with Laurent Mekies, the Red Bull team principal, and Max Verstappen, and Verstappen talked about the reasons why he signed a new deal, and one of them was in fact in response to a question you asked.
Yeah, principally, and this is something I picked up this morning, that the big uncertainty about Max's future, the big thing that he wanted clarity on, the thing that he wasn't unhappy with, wasn't Red Bull's performance on track, wasn't what was going on inside that team. It was the rules, the regulations, the 26 regulations he doesn't like. He still doesn't like them. But he talked about, after 3 races, he says he didn't want to speak about the future with Laurent Mekies. He told him, don't speak to me about this. Discussions with the FIA, discussions with F1, Stefano Domenicali, Liam Parker, just about the rules and nudging them forwards. And he says, generally over time, we've seen changes coming through. He's at peace with what there is now. There's a plan going forward. We've got deployment improvements this year, step for 27, 60-40 power split for 28. And he senses there's enough there to keep him interested, enough there to believe that he can still enjoy racing enough. And then that door's open for a V8 future after 2030.
Exactly, and that's significant when it comes to the timeline. Still not 100% happy with the rules, but happy enough is the way to put it. But it would be naive to imagine that the team's performance wasn't part of it. And he did refer to some strategic decisions the team has made in terms of convincing him, which is important given all the departures there have been and the struggle for performance.
Yeah, I think there's been an impression from the outside. There's been a kind of a one-way door of staff leaving, basically. We know over the last years Christian Horner's gone, Adrian Newey's gone, Jonathan Wheatley's gone, GP as engineer's gone. So we saw all this. There hadn't been people coming on board that we had noticed. So I think what Max wanted was some assurance that this wasn't rats leaving a sinking ship. There was belief here. We know Gwen LeGroux has arrived recently to take charge of that young drive development programme. They're getting more people on board, and I think he sees a vision in Laurent and an honesty, and this is something that Laurent talked about himself today, that they're brutally honest with each other. If there are things they don't like, they talk about it, they don't beat around the bush. So the criticisms we hear from Max on the radio about how rubbish the car is, how terrible those downshifts are, how it doesn't handle, they'll stay. That's part of the dynamic he sees, and it's very much the family thing. There are things you can say inside a family that you perhaps wouldn't say in a work environment. Max sees this as a family, not just a job.
And on that family side of things, another thing he said was he hopes he can finish his Formula One career with Red Bull. And he didn't say in 2030, but he said that deal takes him closer to that. And I do believe that's sincere. He does want to stay with Red Bull, despite any concerns about performance. I think he just needs to be given enough convincing, because he is loyal, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. He talked today about happiness being a critical factor for him. He says, there can be more competitive cars elsewhere. It would be an obvious choice to jump ship and go to a team that is fighting at the front. But he says that's no point if you end up in a team, in an environment where you're not happy. And I think what he's found in Red Bull is this family environment. It's something he's grown. There have been the departures, but he says, the media highlight 5 people out of 2,000 within a team. There's still a core group around him. F1 teams evolve and change. Every outfit has people arrive, has people leave. So I think he sees a family, he sees a chance for this happiness. And even though things aren't as competitive as he would like, I think he sees enough that family environment, an acceptance of the rules, and a belief that the steps are in place, especially powertrains having had quite a strong start, stronger than probably we anticipated, to be fighting for wins in the future.
Now, inevitably, the question of the talks with McLaren that were widely reported came up, and he came up with what I thought was a very good, pithy, sharp response, where he said, I was closer to retiring from F1 than joining another team. Do you believe him?
I think so. I think when we've dug down into this McLaren situation, yes, there were talks between Verstappen's management and Zak Brown, the CEO, but this is very much about long-term visions. What are the long-term strategic plans? And it's part of every manager's job to know what every team is doing, and every team boss needs to know what every driver is doing, because if that's not happening, they're not doing their jobs. So they spoke, they were aware of where things are at. but it never got serious. And I think Max was always serious that if things weren't going to work out with the regulations, then he'd be out of Formula One. He wouldn't be in another team.
And as the rain comes down here in Zandvoort, John, threatening the track action at the weekend in a good way, I would say, in terms of livening things up. Because this has been so complicated and because Verstappen is such a powerful figure in the driver market, I don't think these stories are going to be put to bed by this. I'm sure it'll flare up again next year, and it'll depend how competitive Red Bull actually is. But it's important to note, isn't it, that that position in the market means Verstappen has probably got an enormous amount out of this new contract, and there's no question it would be extremely naive to imagine there aren't various release clauses if Red Bull doesn't deliver at the right level. Red Bull has had that with its top drivers in their contracts for a long time. It was how Sebastian Vettel was able to leave for Ferrari over a decade ago. So this doesn't put everything to bed, does it? And we can't assume this definitely means he's going to be there in 2030.
I think you can never say never in Formula One, that even the most Loctite contracts that we think are in place can still be got out of, and you can always pull a deal together. If two parties are unhappy, you can agree to end it. It's happened in Formula One before, it will happen in Formula One in the future. I think what we've got now is as much of a commitment as there can be, both sides protecting themselves, up to 2030, because lots been made. When we get these press releases about contracts from other drivers, it's often they reference the length of the contract, or they're very murky about the length of it, just saying it's a multi-year deal, as we had with Carlos Sainz yesterday. It was a multi-year deal, no reference of what multi-year is, but they were very clear about the 2030 element today. Max mentioned it many times and talked about this V8 reference, that the new regulations coming for 2031. So I think mindsets from both is this is a deal that runs until 2030. This is a deal where both believe it is going to push forwards. If there are stumbles, if the competitive situation falls apart, things change dramatically, then of course circumstances can change. But as of now, the intent is they stay together, and I think Max, deep in his heart, really does want to see out his F1 career at Red Bull.
Yeah, I'd definitely say it's a desire for it to play out that way, and it might well play out that way. But Laura Marquez did also say that whilst it's a display of trust from Verstappen, he said with that trust comes responsibility on our side, because a contract is two ways. It'll be, I'll do this, you'll give me this. So the pressure is still there, and then the wider pressure is there on FIA and Formula One to get the regulations right. So to me, this is Verstappen using his power in the driver market to get what I'm sure is a fantastic deal. I'm sure he's got even more money out of it, and why not? He is the best driver in Formula One. He also referenced the freedom to do other things being important. So Verstappen and his management have used all of their big beast in the driver market influence here, haven't they?
Absolutely. I've got absolutely no doubt that this deal commercially is better for Verstappen and the Verstappen camp than the previous one. Drivers of Max's stature, of their success, of their record, are so central to that team, don't come and do cheap deals. This will have been a step forward, quite rightly as well, because we know what Max brings to that team. The commitment comes with a price, and you lock yourself down in exchange for a good money deal. It stops other people coming as well. So I think it's a good deal for Verstappen. It's a great deal for Red Bull, because I think if they had lost Max to someone else, I think it's a very difficult direction of travel then for that team to look like it's going to the future. We'd seen various other driver elements get locked down over the summer break. So I think there's a big sense of relief now from Red Bull's camps, both in Austria and Milton Keynes, that the key element of that team is in place.
And we should say, in the bigger picture, a great deal for Formula One as a whole. The last thing they wanted is their star driver walking away because he doesn't like the rules. So this is a win-win for everybody involved. Let's see how it holds up over the next few years.